Hello.
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Hi.
Hello, welcome. Welcome to Idade Live, the place where classical music happens. This is a new episode of Opera for Peace Connections, a series of conversation and masterclasses organized by Opera for Peace in collaboration with Idade. I am Paolo Petrocelli, the co-founder of Opera for Peace. Opera for Peace is a new international cultural nonprofit organization which promotes a new vision of the opera world. Today, we are going to talk about the development of opera theater in the Middle East, a region where big plans for cultural expansions. The creative industry in Arab world is booming. Over the last 15 years, at least 10 new opera theaters and performing arts centers have been built in the region, while many others have been restored and modernized. Opera, in particular, remains one of the most celebrated forms of performing arts, and its promotion and production in any part of the world requires a collective effort in the parts of both the public and private sectors. The opera theater seems to be fulfilling a new strategic role in the Arab and Middle Eastern societies. And today I'm very glad that we are going to talk about this very exciting topic with two special friends and artists, Zeina Barhoum, soprano, and the Opera for Peace ambassador and founder of the Amman Opera Festival in Jordan. Hello, Zeina.
Hello, Paolo.
Al-Baiti, soprano, Opera for Peace affiliate artist, and the first Saudi Arabian opera singer. Welcome, Susanna.
Hi, thank you.
Hi, thank you both for taking the time with us today. So,
Thank you, Paolo.
I'd like to take this opportunity to talk a little bit with you about your personal experience as artists and singers in the Arab world, and also talk a little bit more about future scenarios. What is going to happen in the next years for opera in the region? I would like to start first talking about your music education. I think it's very interesting for our followers to see and understand what are the opportunities to get a music education in the Arab world in the Middle East? Zeina, what is your personal background and how you started to get close to opera?
So the beginnings, I think, go way back to when I was 12. I was part of a school choir. And then my talent for singing was discovered by my music teacher. And I started growing fond of classical music, particularly because I was told that I have the range to explore it further and develop my skills and perhaps maybe one day become a classical opera singer. And so I did after many years. I did start, though, my classical training as an operatic singer, particularly when I was 16, because back then, when I was 12, I was too young. And luckily, I had the advice and I had the right people to tell me that it wasn't the right time for me. So I took it one step at a time and started taking voice lessons the right way with the right repertoire to improve and develop, and with the right teachers. And eventually I went to Rome and I had my training there for bel canto with teachers there. And basically I had private training. But my very first audition was at the Accademia di Santa Cecilia in Rome. And that was a lovely experience because I also learned from the judges there and so many really important singers and scholars who were on the panel. So I had that experience. And coming back to Jordan after this training and also, of course, after performing numerous concerts after that, professionally, non-professionally when I was studying, maybe basically had me gain the experience to become who I am today and to want to give back to my home country. Because being a professional and traveling and being an opera singer is great, and I guess it puts smiles on people's faces, and it's a lovely experience in itself. But as an artist, I feel that it's almost a responsibility and it's a duty to give back to where you come from. Specifically, that we do not have a very strong background, I would say, because it's not part of our culture, the opera culture in our region. and in the Middle East.
Right. Even if I know that there is a very important musical conservatory in Amman, in Jordan.
Correct. I was about to come to that point in a sense. Yes, of course. We have our National Music Conservatory in Amman, and we have many other schools and academies who are also teaching vocal training in classical music and in other genres of music, Arabic and pop. But we do not have a strong program for operatic training for singers. We do not also have the number of people who are particularly yet interested in that genre of music. But it is opening up slowly and people are warming up to it. And I found that out a bit more after finding the festival, that is the Opera Festival in Amman, Amman Opera Festival. The audience that we received, the people and the way they welcomed the music, the staging, everything about it, their comments, their feedback, made me realize that no, it is still possible to make it grow and to make people who are actually talented and interested in this particular genre of music to pursue a career in it as singers. This opens many doors for them to perhaps pursue it further and really consider it. So it is possible, and it's been actually going on for years. I'm not the first one to start this. Particularly, opera has been in the region for a while, and back in 1927, I think the first opera was in Beirut, if I'm not mistaken, by Wadi Sabra. So this was one of the at least findings of the first opera, traces of the first Arabic opera. So people really loved listening to classical music in the region for a very long time. Maybe opera is a new thing, but I think it has been introduced to the region a while back, and it will be and still being introduced to this day.
Exactly. Well, you two are, I think the perfect representative of a new generation of opera singers from the Arab world. And, actually, we know there is quite a solid tradition for opera in the Middle East with the Cairo Opera House, Tunis Opera House, Morocco, and then, of course, more recently in the Gulf, a lot of the things are happening. And this comes to Susan, that you are based in Saudi Arabia. You are based now in Jeddah, right?
Yes, in Jeddah.
Correct. And well, they call you the first soprano of Saudi Arabia, which is, I think, a very, very important title and very exciting title. You have a big.
It's a big title. And it comes with a big responsibility. I mean, about 12 years ago, when I was doing my studies, my undergraduate studies in the American University in Sharjah, I took a choir course similar to Zeina. And again, my teacher, Professor John Perkins, he discovered my potential to sing opera and he encouraged me. Before that, I was already in love with music and I played the guitar. So I had a very strong ear for music in general. And so I started my training at that point with Dr. Emily Perkins, who is an opera singer and a vocal coach. And for about 12 years, I've been training as an opera singer, even though there's a lot of challenges and limitations being in Saudi, not having much opportunities for training and development. We had to, of course, make use of the technology as we are now using video calls and whatnot. I was very thankful and grateful to be able to connect with opera singers and vocal coaches from Austria, from Belgium, and from New York to be able to improve and develop my technique as an opera singer. But yeah, I mean, here in Saudi, it's very, very new. I think that it's the newest among all the other neighboring countries. We have started to sort of expose the audience here to opera about 2 years ago when the Vision 2030 was launched. Andrea Bocelli was invited twice in one of the prestigious festivals here, and La Scala de Milan, they had a very lovely performance here, and I had the pleasure to give my debut performance with them as an opening act for them. And yes, it was really well received. The opera has touched people's hearts here, and I did not have a doubt in that because I believe in it, and it touched me. And classical music, opera, and opera singing really have a great future here with the right tools, with the right way to present it. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity. I have also noticed how so many young talents have approached me, Saudi talents, who love opera and they want to become opera singers and they have the voices for it. And they're even training themselves because they don't have the opportunity to do any more. But I was really encouraged that they want to do more, and it's a great opportunity for professionals to come in and provide them this opportunity.
Absolutely. And we know that opera is always offering opportunity of interaction, no, between the professionals and artists coming from so many different countries on the world. And definitely over the last, I would say 10, 20 years, thanks to opera, European countries had the opportunity to interact and collaborate more and more with Middle Eastern and Arab countries. Now, as Arab artists, what does it mean to you, opera? What do you think opera might represent for artists coming from the Arab world? Because of course we know opera has always been identified with very Western culture, but you are also demonstrating that actually opera can connect with the Arab culture. In which way, Zeina? What do you think?
Well, I think if we basically break it down into its basic form, opera is a singing technique. If you want to describe the vocal part of opera, because then an opera as a production has so many elements to it, because it's an audio and visual experience with set design, costumes. It's really a full-on stage experience. But it's not the first form of entertainment that is on a stage with costumes and acting and the set design, because we have that in the region. We've had that for years in our own language. And it wasn't called opera. It was called a singing play, or actually a lot also in the region used to call it operette, which is a kind of a form of what opera is known as opera nowadays, worldwide and forever. For the longest time since it was founded. So if we would specify, because it's also based on context. So if we want to put opera in the Western context, then the singing technique is what differs from our singing technique. And so that really becomes a technique that we're maybe adopting because we don't have it in the region. We've been attracted to it. And it's a form of singing that does not require a microphone if it is set in the right setting and in the right space acoustically. Operates usually in our region used to be performed, or singing plays or plays that had singing in them would be performed with a microphone, because the singing technique is different and you cannot sing without a mic. Otherwise, specifically with our way of singing and scales, they're very different. The way you breathe, the way the notes come out, the whole technique is very different. So I think it's really just adapting the form of art to make it maybe fit into ours. And it's a form of art that's been admired and appreciated by our region also for years. So I don't think it's really very foreign, because at the end of the day, every piece of art, and I call an opera production a piece of art because it is, specifically when it's produced well, it moves everyone. You cry and you laugh, and there's so many emotions involved in an opera, and regardless of the language and regardless of the singing technique, if it's true to its art form and it's performed well to an audience that appreciates it, I think it would always be a success.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
I think we're lucky to be able to nowadays exchange it more and be able to learn from each other and be able to fuse both worlds a bit easier than before as well. Luckily, through technology, we connect also a lot easier, and hopefully future collaborations will become more facilitated. But we've already seen that collaborations have been happening after finding the festival here. It's been successful for 3 years, and we've had guest singers come from all parts of the world. Yes, Italy was always one of the main countries we collaborated with, simply because of my educational background as an opera singer. But we always found a way to connect with other countries and make sure we involve as many people as possible, because the message of the festival is also bridging cultures. And I think that's what music always does.
Absolutely. Well, I think that with your work, you are clearly demonstrating that opera is a true global form of art. And I think that over the next decades, it will be always more and more clear, to the world. Definitely, there is a big need of innovation, we know. And definitely also your contribution, the contribution of the Arab world to the development of opera might bring this energy to innovate and expand opera languages also in a different way. Susan, going back to vocal technique, I'm very interested to understand a little bit more, what are the challenges for, let's say, an Arabic speaker to get close to the bel canto technique? There are some kind of limitation from really the body also, I think, point of view in terms of vocal, let's say, abilities and skills that you need to develop from scratch is so complicated.
I mean, the Arabic language, with all its different accents, it's based on bright vowels. So the vowels feel like they're open, while in the opera singing technique, it needs to be sort of closed more. So that this was one of the main challenges to face as an opera singer with an Arabic mother tongue. Even my voice teachers would echo the same thing. They'd be like, this is really fascinating because it's a new challenge for us as well to train an Arabic-speaking opera singer. This would be one of the main things I think of. One of the things that helped actually is that I've noticed, also being as a vocal coach myself, that when we speak, there's a lot of use of nasal resonance in our speaking language, which sort of helps in putting the voice in the right position and in the right form when singing opera. I would say one of the interesting projects or the interesting challenges, and I think Zeina agrees on that, is to try to develop the new technique in singing opera in Arabic.
Correct. Yeah. This is a very big topic, and I would like to talk a little bit about this with you. There is this new opportunity of basically developing a completely new technique, vocal technique, as you're saying, but also give the opportunity to so many artists, professionals, young talents from the region to basically create a completely new vision of opera for the Arab world. So having productions and operas that give the opportunity to narrate the Arab story, the Arab heritage, which is something, great potential. From where we can start to build this kind of Arabic opera school, let's say. What do you think is needed to do in order to move ahead?
Well, I think we have great and amazing artists coming from the Arab world who live abroad, who have received great education and have become successful artists in the classical world and opera. So we would start by that and bringing the experts from this field and bring them together with a team of artists in all the sides that is required to produce an opera. And then we would work together in keeping the essence of the Arabic culture and art, while also keeping the essence of opera and classical music. And this is something it's already happening, and it's already being thought of and worked on. We have great Arab artists and composers working on such a thing like Qutayb al-Naimi, for example, where you can really hear the beauty of mixing the Arabic maqam with an orchestra, and in a way that an orchestra would play that. And it's beautiful, and it only gives us amazing hope and amazing opportunity to see something new added to the world of opera.
Absolutely. Also I see the opportunity for Middle Eastern countries to get closer and closer. I mean, because, for instance, in Europe, we experienced this from many years now. Opera gives us the opportunity to collaborate with, for instance, Italy might going to produce an opera with France, Germany, UK. So this is very exciting, thinking that, hopefully very soon, Jordan is going to produce a new opera with Saudi Arabia, for instance, and this will be very exciting. And well, Zeina, you mentioned this before. Of course, you're also the founder of Amman Opera Festival, which we may consider it basically the first Arab opera festival.
Correct.
I have to say I was lucky enough to participate in some of the editions of the festival and see the reaction of the audience. It was just so impressive, you know, to see how the audience was engaged and attracted by your cultural offer. Can you tell us a little bit more about you as a soprano to decide to also become a kind of entrepreneur, and basically built from scratch this amazing cultural project for the city of Amman?
Certainly. I think it was, to start with, foreseen as a bit of a challenge. But once the ball started rolling, as they say, we started seeing the fruits of the labor that was put into it, and also the people, you know, as you said, people's reactions to the productions and the grandeur behind it, you know, because they really didn't think that an opera production would have so many things that are a part of it, so many elements that are so complex that would bring together an opera production. We do have, though, a percentage of our audience, I would say goers, opera goers that have been with us since the beginning of the festival, since 2017, who also travel to see operas around the world. So they already have a background on opera, they love watching it, and they know what goes behind the scenes. And the appreciation, obviously, we've seen from both people, because those who have seen operas before internationally would always compare and say, interesting. So something I've seen at the Met, how would that compare to something I'm seeing right now in Jordan on the stage of, you know, the first 2 years we've had the showcasing happen at the Roman Theater, which is an ancient Roman theater we have downtown Amman. And people called it magical. When they compared it to international operas, they actually said it was at the same level of operas they've seen abroad. Overall, I would say, without all the nitty-gritty details, of course, from the very start. But I mean, even when they compared some nitty-gritty details, we were so excited to know that they found it to be at a similar level to those international productions. So it really was the fuel to keep the engine going for the festival. And we had our last performance was 2019 with the Barber of Seville. And we involved always talent from the country. We found great interest from those who, as also Sausan was saying, you find talent, local talent that was always interested but never found the platform to really pursue and participate. So I think it's crucial to start foundations, festivals, things that would really give an opportunity for locals to explore further the talents that they have in, I think, every aspect of the production. It doesn't necessarily have to be particularly singing related, because there are people who are, for example, talented set designers, but have nowhere to place that talent and really be a part of production. So it gave, I think, vocational opportunities, excuse me, for those who want to be a part of every aspect of the production, even and you know, performing arts management. So involving local talent is important, and of course, participation and collaboration with foreign talent. But I think, and going back to your conversation with Sausan about the language and the Arabic language, I think some people found it initially a challenge for them to participate in a foreign language production, but then it's the language of music, it's universal. And once you get the hang of it as a singer, because we're all used to performing in different languages, and every language has its own challenge. I mean, German for so many people, even as auditors, is sometimes hard to understand, and even hard to sing and as a language. And it's always been a challenge in the bel canto world, I think. So does French. It's got its own problems as a language. Italian has long been probably the best language to basically sing bel canto and perform opera, because it's got all the vowels that open up, and you know, as a vocal coach, I'm sure, Sausan, you find it to be probably the easiest to teach when it comes to opening up the voice and the vowels, etc. So anyway, in a nutshell, the festival also gave educational opportunities, which I think, I'm just tying up all the conversations together. Making sure that there's continuity, I think, is the challenge in our region, because the example I brought up in the beginning of our conversation, which is Beirut's first alleged opera in 1927, was lost. it was never performed again. There are so many attempts at Arabic operas, and one of them was also a Palestinian composer. He's a contemporary composer called Patrick Lama. He and I know you know of him. And he showcased his in Germany for the first time, and it was never showcased again. And there's no footage of it. There's lost footage, and there's no continuity. And experts don't necessarily come together to maybe work together like Arab, musicians with foreign musicians that could develop a technique together that could have continuity for generations to come, and not for us, because we're building a foundation for those who will come after us, and it's not something we're doing for ourselves, but rather for people in the future. So I think that's really important. On the history, sorry to make this long, but only one very last comment. There's also a new opera that's being produced or was supposed to be produced for Expo 2020 in the Emirates on the history of the Emirates. So I think what you were saying about the history of Jordan in collaboration with Saudi Arabia, I think that's a great idea. And hopefully more of that will be put forward and will be explored further, because I think it's fascinating.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, what I see is that, of course, many countries are actually putting more and more efforts in developing, culture, performing arts, opera in the region. Definitely, we have to mention the Royal Opera House Muscat in Amman, Cairo Opera House, also private initiatives like Opera Lebanon and in Lebanon. So I see, very positive actually inputs coming from so many different countries. I agree with you both. Now the challenge is also to create a kind of common platform, a network where you can join forces as countries, institutions, and artists for the development of opera in the region. Unfortunately, we have 5 minutes left. So want to underline this point about the social impact of opera. This is also very hot topic here in Europe, also during this very, very challenging period with the COVID crisis. Definitely, most of the all opera houses had to stop their seasons. And so there is a big debate, not only how we are going to start again our activities, but also what is needed to, demonstrate people that opera is so important for our communities. Susan, it's just, amazing to see that Saudi Arabia is basically entering a new phase, completely a new phase. You mentioned the 2030 vision, and the Saudi government announced a huge reform of the basically all cultural industry in the country. What means for you to be protagonist of this basically cultural revolution? What does it mean to be part of this cultural movement that is going to inspire your people, inspire your country through culture and through opera?
I mean, it gives me great pride and great joy to be alive in this time in Saudi Arabia. And of course, great responsibility to be able to set a high standard for the generations to come in carrying a great art forward. I mean, I'm called the first Saudi opera singer, and I mean, if I am, then I have a great responsibility to represent this art as in its best form, and to develop it and grow it in its best and most creative form. I think opera has a great impact in improving and developing and growing the creativity of the artist, and it's something that we will definitely benefit from here in Saudi Arabia.
Absolutely. Zeina, last word on an advice to a young singer coming from the Arab world who would like to get familiar with opera and vocal technique, from where we can start, from where she can start.
Well, recently we started an online program in collaboration with Opera for Peace that I've approached Opera for Peace about, basically. And we have many young talent we discovered through also workshops that we conducted with or in support, basically, of yourself. You joined us in Jordan, and they're very young, but they started vocal technique and training at school, and they're as young as 12. So I think starting with a foundation and with the support of teachers, if they are that young, I don't know if you meant by that being young, that young, but I think now it's a little different than when I was 12. The opportunities that a 12-year-old this day would get is very different. And they're exposed to everything. A lot of things are available to them. But I think whatever year we're in, whatever generation it is, the support from teachers, from parents, is from family members, people around you, is what really gives every singer that push that they need to really to encourage them to go forward and continue and pursue and dream, and even dream big. But I think starting off with the right foundation is very important, finding the right teacher and starting with the right repertoire as well. Because as you know, if you are as young as 12 and you start that vocal training, if you have the potential of becoming a classical opera singer, if you start off the wrong way, then you're bound to ruin your vocal cords. So as long as the foundation to start off is correct, that's the key thing. And I'm very proud of this online program, though it's very short and we have managed to only give away a few lessons, but it already helped give advice to those young talents and aspiring singers to know where to go and what to do with their talent. And it's really just finding the right advisors. If they're in Jordan, they can come to me, to the festival. I can write us on our page. On Instagram, Amman Opera Festival, or on Facebook for any advice. And we're working extensively with Opera for Peace, even for the smallest advice. It doesn't have to be a full-on lesson, but it could be advice. And also directly with the team. For anyone in the region, I know there are so many academies available and good advisors who can advise them for the way forward.
Absolutely. Thank you, Zeina. So, well, thank you very much, both of you. So inspiring to see two committed artists that are so engaged in their countries, in their communities. Really, really, thank you very much. Fortunately, this was a short talk, but we hope that this is just one of a series of talks to discover more about opera and arts in the Middle East and in the Arab world. So once again, thank you very much, Zeina.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Idadjo, for hosting us, for having us, and thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.